Hi guys, it's Jake here at Canadian Cutting Edge, and today is Fixed Blade Friday, and we have two knives from Hultafors to share with you today. Hultafors is a company I've not reviewed before, and I've got a few knives from them. A special thank you to Big Bear Tools in BC. I'll put a link down in the bottom of the screen and in the description below. They have all sorts of tools and knives and sharpening equipment and all kinds of great stuff. And you can check out their channel, especially if you're a Canadian. You probably want their channel, their website, their store. They've got some good prices and they've got all kinds of really good stuff. I'll probably be getting some Hultafors axes, maybe just one axe, a hatchet or something in the future to do a review this spring or this fall. We still have snow on the ground here and it is in March already, which is normal for us in central Alberta. But anyway, let's take a look at these knives. They come in polypropylene cases with polypropylene handles with really good texture. Here's the label that comes with the safety knife, the SK model. This is a safety knife. You can't stab yourself with it because the tip of it is blunt. So there's a couple of good reasons, well, maybe more than two, I don't know, we'll talk about it. There's some good reasons why this type of knife would be a very good choice for you or for somebody else that you know. And it's got a little bit a brighter color on the handle, a little bit smaller, thinner handle. And I'll talk about good reasons for that as well. So if you're interested at all in these fixed blade knives, rat tail, about 3/4, a little over 2/3 of the length tang. The blade comes back, the steel comes back way up to here. If you're interested at all in these Japanese carbon steel blades, stick around because we're going to do a full review on these. Let's start off by talking about the sheaths first. The sheath comes made especially just for that particular knife, although some knives are interchangeable. This is the safety tip blade, and so it fits into this sheath, and as you can see, that one's larger, so it just wouldn't fit in there. So they're not all interchangeable because the handles are different sizes, as you can see when you see those two knives next to each other. So you need the right sheath. The sheaths are made out of polypropylene. You can use a 1.5-inch belt with these, or smaller of course, but not larger. If your belt is thicker than, just a thin thing, you can take a knife and start off that little tip thing. If that doesn't work, take off more and more of that plastic that's sticking out and until your belt fits in there. If your belt is quite thick or, larger than 2.5 inches, you need a different solution. There's another knife that I'm going to be talking about, and that's the outdoor knife. The OK1 outdoor knife will get a separate review, but with that knife came an elastic type sheath that's optional. And, it comes off, and the elastic holds on, and it's got this button on it, which fits in this buttonhole. And I'll show you that now, even though I'm not talking about this knife today, because I am trying to find out if Hultafors will sell this elastic separately or not. And if they do, you take the elastic and you put that button through here, lock it up, and then you can close that. And now you can put pretty much any size belt through there and carry it. And it also has an extra little section on the side right there for something else. I don't know, maybe a ferro rod, maybe some other tool, whatever, I don't know. I hope that's an option that you can get for these other knives. Let's talk about why we have this hole in here. A number of the different companies that make this type of and style of knife have sheaths that have these holes, and that's to put a button through. So either on your coveralls or something that has a bigger button. It even works on smaller buttons, and I'll turn the camera around and try to show you that. The way that buttonhole works is you put it through a button on your shirt and you pull the button through, and now it's hanging from that button. And so your knife can hang. Of course, you lock this down. I'm going to be taking it off in just a second, so I'm not going to lock that down. These little clips here just clip into those two little holes right there. And so you can carry your knife that way on any button that you've got anywhere. So that's the sheath. That's put aside now. Let's take a look at this knife. Let's talk about the details. This is a safety knife, Japanese carbon steel. If I get the exact formulation or the exact type of steel that it is, I'll put that in the description and on the bottom of the screen if I have time before the video is released. If that information comes after I've released this video, it will be in the description, most definitely. But it's a Japanese carbon steel, hardened to somewhere between 58 and 60 Rockwell hardness. This knife has a tang that is 2.5 millimeters thick. That is 0.1 inches, so 1/10 of an inch. You can even see on the spine of this blade that it's just the rough strip of steel that they've left. And efficiency in the construction of these knives, it doesn't need to be perfect, and so it isn't, because these are economical purchases. It's not going to break the bank at all to get one of these knives. Scandinavian grind, quite sharp from the factory, and that's because they even do a leather stropping at the factory for these knives. Not a bad choice at all. The handle fits in the hand very well. I've got a large size hand, and as you can see, there's room on either end for even a slightly larger hand in there. And this is the smaller one, and fits in there really well. Lots of room. People with medium-sized hands will find this very comfortable. Even small hands, you'll find this comfortable. And with this extra plastic on the heel of the blade, heel of the handle, and on the front of the handle, it's very safe. Once your hand's in there, it's not going to slip out very easily. You might bump into something with the blade, and your hand's not going to slide off and get across the blade. Very safe. That's a good thing for the safety knife, indeed. I'm going to try to get a close-up picture or two of this, but I'll do what I can right here. There we go. We've got the focus. The tip of that blade has been rounded over, and as you can see in that picture, it's flat, which makes it very safe. So when your hand bumps into it or any other flesh, it's not going to cut in, and you can hit pretty hard, and it's very safe. The length of the cutting edge on this knife is 3.5 inches, which is 8.8 centimeters. The handle length is right around 4.5 inches or 11.5 centimeters. And then it's got a nice thick, not quite an inch, about 2/3 of an inch thick, 2 centimeter thick sort of handle right there. One of the benefits I see of this that I want to mention before we get too long, because people tend to drop out of the videos before they finish. I don't know why. I tend to watch videos all the way through. Not all of them, of course, but predominantly. A really good feature for this is as a training knife. Of course, that's not its primary feature for why it's made, but that's an additional thing that I like to mention to people is if you've got somebody who's learning how to use knives, perhaps you've got a child, just coming into adolescence, or whatever age you think it's appropriate for your child to start learning about and using very sharp knives, this is a really good choice for the beginner because of the safety factor with stabbing. Of course, it can still slice, and every knife should be able to slice, but you've got that tip being very safe because stabbing is usually much riskier than cutting. At cutting, you can usually end up, you do some stitches and it's all better. But a stab can get into vital organs and stuff like that much more easily. So it's a safety knife for that. Why'd my voice do that? It's a safety knife for that reason and good option. The other thing is, depending on what you're going to be using the knife for, there are very few things that we do with knives that we require a stabbing use of the knife. Having this sharp right close to the tip, you can do an awful lot of things. With this tip, I'm in this piece of wood here. I'm going to have to move the camera up a bit just so I don't bump into it too much. Even with that tip being sharp, and with the tip being dull, I can still use this knife to, cut a bit of a divot in wood, and I can use it to cut a hole. It's not the best way to cut a hole or a divot, but it can be done even with a safety knife. And I'm not going to spend an awful lot of time making this perfect, but and you can certainly do all your basic cutting with this Scandi grind. You can make your feather sticks. I won't spend all day here cutting, but that Scandinavian grind cuts very, very well, and no problem at all getting the job done. And you've got nice belly here, so you can do some good safe cutting. Having the tip being rounded can even be useful for somebody who's just learning how to skin an animal, because you won't pierce through into the parts where you don't want to quite as easily. Of course, once you become skilled at it, you want a knife with a tip, because there's other reasons why you want a tip when you're doing, work with an animal or whatever you're doing. So tips are very useful, but not having tips can also be very useful. And this knife is a really good choice for that. It's not super heavy. So the weight for this knife is 2.8 ounces, and with the sheath, 3.7. Not very much at all. So that's 104 grams with the sheath, and the blade by itself is 79 grams. So it's a very light knife, very useful, very functional, easy to carry, easy to use, strong. If you look at other reviews of Hultafors knives, you'll find a lot of very positive reviews. I like the texture on the plastic here very much for grippiness in the hand. And I've already talked about the rest of the handle on how it's really, really good. You can even do some minor batoning with this, soft woods only, not very much, but just some minor work, because of this nice Scandi grind works really well for doing some, some kindling batoning, that kind of stuff. Okay, so that's that knife, and doesn't rattle, quite secure. And when you're taking it out, you can use that right there as your thumb ramp to push against to take it out. You just push against there and pull it out. Very handy knife, very comfortable knife, good looking knife. Recommended. If you like this video, please click on like, please share with your friends, please comment. Let me know what you think of this video and what you think of these knives. And even if you don't like the knives, if you like the video, please hit that like, the thumbs up. And if you're a subscriber, click on that bell. A little pop-up will come asking you if you want to be notified of every video. You'll want to say yes, because you want to make sure you get notified for that March giveaway video that's coming up. It's my 1-year anniversary in March for this channel, and I'm doing a number of different, at least 2 different giveaways. One through GearBest and one that I'm doing from some of my own knives. So thank you very much for subscribing. And remember, always cut towards your chum, not your thumb.